Welcome to the podcast. It starts with you, with me, Vic O'Farrell. I ask my guests, by understanding their own behaviours and personality style, what impact on their lives, both personally and professionally, has there been? What is it like to live and work with someone of your style? I mean, this is not about labelling people, putting people in boxes, or an excuse for bad behaviour. It's about recognising, understanding and respecting that we're all different. And what impact can you have on others by looking in the mirror? Because it starts with you. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of It Starts With You with me, Vicky O'Farrell. Now, I always say I'm delighted and excited about my guests, but actually I'm even more delighted and excited to be joined today by Reverend Kerry Jane. Now, I'm going to get you to introduce yourself, Kerry, but before we do, just to let listeners know, I met Rev Kerry, as I call her, a few weeks ago when we were doing a walk at Box Hill in Surrey, because we're both going on a trek on July, I think I've written the date down, 23rd of July we go. We are going for 5 days to Iceland and we are trekking for the charity Copperfield. Yes, you will see in the show notes and in all the social media posts our links. But there was something about our practice walk that we did that we clicked. There was some very deep and meaningful conversations that we had, which weren't just about, oh, what trek did you do before and blah blah blah. We did really explore faith and our belief system. And so I invited Kerry to come and join us on this podcast. So just to tell the viewers and the listeners a little bit more about yourself, obviously who you are and where you do you call it practice? I don't know. I'll stop waffling now. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, no problem. I am the Reverend Kerry Jane Evans. I was ordained with my middle name, Jane. That was important to me, even though I am just Kerry. Jane is actually my middle name. And the reason for that is because Jane is a derivative of John. So I thought Kerry isn't necessarily a biblical name. In fact, Kerry is a county in Ireland. So it's a bit like being called Surrey or Kent. And I have Jane in my ordination service in order to sort of stamp it with a biblical name. I'm based in Hawley in Surrey, and it's we have a parish of 3 churches just on the border of Sussex and Surrey. We're right at the south end of that. And half of our parish, half of Gatwick Airport is included in our parish. So there's a thing that you do called beating the bounds. Sounds interesting. But back in the day, you would take a stick and you would walk the parish boundary. It's called beating. Okay. So in some respects, you're sort of marking out the boundary.
Yeah.
And if I was to do that now, I would have to negotiate 737s and A320s and all sorts. So
Yeah.
Don't think I get permission for that. So we have to, scoot around it.
Yeah. I don't think it'd be very safe either.
No, I don't think they'd allow it at all.
No, not at all. Okay. Well, that's wonderful. And actually, what you said earlier, just before we came on and recorded, is the fact that on Wednesdays, you call it work at Wilf's on Wednesdays.
Yeah, so I'm here in St Wilfrid's Church, which is one of our 3 churches. We have a parish church called St Bartholomew's, which has been there since, oh my goodness, probably been a wooden church there since, what would it be, 1,000 years. And that's the parish church. And then we have St Francis Church and St Wilfrid's here, which were built in about the 60s. And we run a warm space during the winter. We call it Work from Wilf's. It's a warm space. We like to have, what are they called? What's it called when you've got the same letters? I've completely forgotten the name for it. It's called a...
Oh, not an acronym, because that's a 3 letters that means stand for something else. Yes, I know what you mean, but I've got brain
fog. And anyway, so we've got Work from Wilf's, which is our warm space. And when we finished the winter, and we were still meeting, and we thought, well, let's just keep it open. It's been the most amazing planting ground for new projects. So in itself, it's a new project. I'm a pioneer minister. And that means that I work in the fringes of church, as well as doing regular services on a Sunday or midweek. I work in the fringes to work with people who wouldn't ordinarily come to church, have conversations about life, model God, if you like, model the way that Jesus would have lived. That's really what we're doing, trying to do. To have conversations with people that are deeper than just, what's for sale in Waitrose, for example.
And maybe that's why we just clicked and bonded on that walk at Box Hill, because I was fascinated. I was like, how did you come to faith? Because you weren't born into a religious family where it was naturally assumed, was it? In fact, if you'd like to tell the listeners and viewers, perhaps what you did before.
Thank you. So, well, I was born in Kent, and when I was in my 20s, I decided that I wanted to be an air stewardess, as you would have said at the time. And I applied to Virgin Atlantic. And yes, I began my flying career with Virgin Atlantic. I was cabin crew for Virgin Atlantic back in the late 80s, 90s, 1990. I'm trying to think now, I can't get my dates right. When did I join? So my eldest son was born in 1998. So goodness me, 84.
Okay.
No.
94.
94, I joined
84,
Virgin.
you were still at school because we were born in the same year.
It was the 10th anniversary of Virgin Atlantic. They'd only been going 10 years, and it was all very exciting. I started flying for Virgin, and it was amazing. I did about 8 or 9 years, and then sadly, 9/11 happened. Anyway, at that stage, I'd met Alan, my husband. We met on a 3-night in Miami, and I've been together ever since. And we had 2 children, and then redundancy was offered after 9/11, and so I decided to take it. And it was sort of after that, and then I subsequently had another son, that I sort of questioned what was going on for me. I had a sense of being alone, even though I was surrounded by many, many people. I'm a social kind of person, like to chat to people. So I was surrounded by many, felt really alone inside. And I think over the years, as a teenager and a young adult, particularly when I was flying for Virgin at the beginning, I went absolutely crazy. And I think I tried to fill that void with many things, behaviours that wouldn't be necessarily ones I would want to advocate for. And anyway, so eventually, I think when I had the children, you get these times in life where you question what life is all about. And I started to think about that. And I found myself at a church fun day, St Bartholomew's Church, here in Hawley. And the generosity of the people really spoke to me. You went there was food for the family, there were games, there were things to join in with, and it was just generous. Imagine now, because they weren't around at the time, imagine a school fete. I think most people can imagine a school fete, that everything's free. Because you go to a school fete and quite frankly, you have to open your wallet and just tip like 100 quid out on the pavement, on the playground. It costs you a fortune, whatever it is you're buying. Imagine that, but you walk in and it's just all complimentary. Yeah. And it just sort of blew me away, the generosity. And I said to Alan at the time, I'd really like to go back. And it was then that the stirring started to come. I felt like I was kind of being really stirred up. So much so that I was quite weepy. And then eventually, a few weeks later, I found myself in my kitchen having this most immense sense of warmth and light and radiant kind of infill of what I had no idea what it was, but I wasn't scared. I just felt like this thing was, filling me, I guess. And I used to have some vivid dreams. And when I eventually asked some people at the church, this thing happened to me, and they were like, well, that's what we would say is the Holy Spirit. That's God saying, do you know what? You've opened up your life to say, yes, please. And that's when God doesn't bully his way into people's lives. That's not how it works.
No. But you took it one step further. So it wasn't like you said, like God has come into my life. Now I must go to church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. You actually went and did and became ordained as the Reverend Kerry Jane.
Yeah, I mean, it's all a bit of a process, really, because, of course, when you come to faith, you're all a bit excited. I mean, you're probably really annoying to people, to be honest, because you're also, it's like falling in love again. You're, it's just, it's like when you find something people are naturally evangelists. You evangelize, we evangelize about Copperfield, or we talk about things we love, don't we?
Yeah.
And so you do it naturally, but it can sometimes be a bit much for people, and so you don't quite know how to level it when you're first in it. And but after a few years, I was a youth worker. I did a youth work degree. I used to volunteer, I used to do Sundays, etc., etc. And then I started doing some work for a charity as a schools work leader. I used to go and do assemblies, etc. And I just felt that I needed to be reshaped. And so that was my calling. So the
Yeah.
calling into ministry, if you like, was that I felt I needed to be reshaped to serve God more fully.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my personal sense of that. And that's what I explored. But it took 7 years.
Okay. And what does it mean to you now to be working in true harmony with what your belief system? And for those of you who are listening who are of different faith or perhaps do not have a faith, but for you to be actually in harmony with it and with your values, when you talked about the generosity of the church faith, and the fact that it was just all complementary, that obviously speaks a lot to me about your values as a human. So what does it mean to you to now be aligned with that?
Yeah. I guess that when I was ordained because what happens is you're ordained as a deacon to start with. So that was 2 years ago, this July. When you're ordained as a deacon, you're ordained as a clerk in holy orders. That's the bishop. He sort of, ordains you. It's a big formal service at Southwark Cathedral. 4 of my trekking team were there, which was wonderful. And when I think you spend a long time in training and in what they call the discernment process, thinking that through, learning, thinking about theology, thinking about ethics, thinking about all these sorts of things, but also feeling like a complete imposter. What on earth am I doing here? Why me? Who am I to be? I was pushing a trolley up and down the 747.
I still can't picture you doing that.
I was standing in, Disney World with, Richard Branson smoking a cigar saying, oh, wouldn't it be wonderful to have one of these? Do you know what I mean? It's like you think to yourself, how on earth can I do this? But in actual fact, when I was ordained, I think that in the months that rolled out, what it occurred to me was that sense of affirmation was there. Now, I'm not suggesting that everybody has to be ordained to have affirmation, but I think the point of affirmation, or somebody who says, great job, well done, or, when you are affirmed in what you are called to do, whether that's, being a doctor or, whatever it might be, a lawyer or something, some of these, a teacher, teachers, amazing. The calling to be a teacher is just outstanding because it is tough and, the reward is not massive. When you are affirmed, when somebody can see that it's right for you, I think it just gives you a sense of, oh yeah, I'm on the right path here. This is right for me. And I think then what you start to do is you start to flourish because you're planted, biblical analogy here, but, you're not planted in rocky ground. You're planted in good soil and actually you're then enabling yourself to flourish and then bless other people. And that's really beautiful. Whether people do it unpaid or whether I receive a stipend, which is, it means I don't have to get a job to support myself. I'm given a stipend, but other people do it. They pay for themselves, a self-supporting minister. Doesn't matter if it's paid or not. Actually, it's you being able to bless other people in the way that you feel blessed too.
Yeah. That is really beautiful. And if we bring it to like the workplace for perhaps more people that are watching or listening to this, it is that affirmation and the rewards, being told that you've done a great job, knowing that the role that you're doing is the right one for you. Because I'm sure there are many people that are listening that have thought, and we've all done it, haven't we? We've been in a job that we've just thought, I hate this job. Why am I doing it? But we don't know what to do. And then when you find the job, so it's a little bit like with me being the queen of behaviours. I kind of feel like this job found me because I got fired 14 years ago from my corporate role. And then having now got this job, and when I go and help people understand their behaviors and the impact that they have on others, I come away and, when people say to me, oh my God, that was amazing. I now really get why, I have conflict with so and so. And then I go, that's lovely that I'm doing. And then I go, oh, and I got paid for it. Oh, that's a bonus. And it is that
Yeah.
knowing that you're truly aligned with your values and your belief system. Again, I say listeners, viewers, it doesn't mean that you have to be religious, but it's
Mhm.
just knowing that you're aligned with your purpose really does strengthen everything that you do,
Mm.
doesn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
Now, I'm going to ask you this question
Mhm.
because it's potentially going to go through. Um, what are your views on the assisted dying
Bill.
bill? Yes, I was trying to think of what the word was then.
Yeah. We're going deep right away.
Well, I am going deep. We've been on talking for 15 minutes. I'm going to throw that one in there because
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think it's a conversation we all need to have.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's really important that we don't just steer away from these deep subjects. It's really important. I think that I will come to the answer, but what I was going to say
Yeah.
is that I feel like my time in connection with my teammates in Copperfield and walking alongside those people, people that are in treatment, have had treatment, and some that have now sadly died, or I would say in my business have gone before us. They has shown me, you know, the vulnerability of people. And I think that it's been an honour to talk about some of those deep things with those people. And I think we shouldn't steer away from thinking about death and thinking about how we might want the end of our life to look.
Yeah.
And when we were in training, we had some teaching about pastoral care, and we were asked the question, when do you want to die? How do you want to die?
Ooh,
What do you want your funeral to look like? And we were encouraged to think about it, because how possibly can you walk through these things with other families if you haven't considered it yourself?
no, that's deep.
Anyway, coming to the assisted dying bill, I personally, if I were in a place to vote, I wouldn't have voted for it. Obviously, it's gone through and now it's going to be looked at. The reason I wouldn't have voted for it is because I believe that there are so many vulnerable people who can be duped by clever people, manipulated by people who, at the very, very part of their life where they have very little, perhaps energy, I believe that there could be people that would be really dealt a bad hand on it. And I think that in my role, have to look after the least, the last, and the lost.
Okay.
And for me, looking after the least means enabling them to be protected from people who might have, you know, an ill cause about them. Now, I'm not suggesting that all people would, because there are people who would choose their own death. And I wonder if in the future, as happens in our role sometimes, and I'm a hospital chaplain here, it
Mhm.
could be that I'm asked to be in someone's company as they decide to end their life.
Mm.
And that will be something that as ministers we will have to make a choice to do.
Okay. Um, I hear you in terms of the fact of where you say in terms, well, I've written it down, the least, the last, and the lost. And when you're coming at it from a position of people, vulnerable people, and do we have enough of a safety net around this? Which is why I think it needs to be something that we discuss openly as human beings. And in fact, there are people that I can talk to. I remember, actually, as we're recording this, it's just coming up to it's the anniversary of my father passing. And I remember being with him and holding his hands as he took his last breaths. And actually, that was a very special moment. I'm not at 54, as I'm recording this. I'm not scared of dying. I don't want to die yet because I feel like I've got so much more to give.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some people, I think, in this world that can't even can't even talk about the subject. It's just a no go. And I feel it's something we do need to talk about. Do you?
Oh, I absolutely do. In fact, we run here a session called Grave Talk.
Okay.
Some people have started things around the country called Death Cafe, but I think that's a worse title. I love brave talk, and we go to we go to about 5 or 6 care homes in this town. I prefer to call them rest homes because, that's a nicer way of saying it. As people are coming towards the end of their lives, some people are full of years. They've naturally got to the end. And I love that phrase, we become full of years, and they live out their life being cared for by an amazing bunch of people. Care home workers, can I just say, shout out to people who work and care for others. Just another bunch of people who I also would take my hat off to. But we run this session in one of our care homes, and we ask families of those who are in the care home to come, and we have those of us that conduct funerals go. We have the funeral directors, we have people that can do probate, so we have solicitors, and we get the conversation going. There's a set of cards, they're published cards, and it get people talking about, do you think it's appropriate for people to wear bright colours at a funeral? Do you think it's okay to, have flowers or to have no flowers? Is it okay to donate to charity and not have any flowers? It's really sort of some of it's simple, some of it's a lot deeper, but it gets you talking about it, and it's really important.
Yeah, and I think there's no right or wrong, is there?
No.
And it is about actually just opening up a conversation with people to say, what would you like? And the thing is, I've always turned around and said, I don't really care because I won't be here. If I don't like you, I might come back and haunt you. I don't know. Can I let ghosts? I mean, I've seen them, so I do believe in them. But it is one of those of actually you do want to talk about it, because if something, say for example, if God forbid something did happen to me, can I say God forbid? I'm not religious. I don't know if that's a swear word to you, but
You can say whatever you want to say. It's your podcast.
it is my podcast, yeah. But I would like people to know that actually, if something happened to me, even at a younger age, I'd like to think that I go into my 90s. I want you to celebrate the life that you had with me, because whilst I'm no longer here in this body, I don't know where I'll be, but celebrate everything that you knew about me. I mean, I'm sure, I'd like to think some people might cry a little bit, but I don't want you to spend your time in grief. Is not a place to stay, it's a place to travel through and to be happy with the moments that you had. But is that just me? Does that, because some people just go, God, you're just too positive, just sod off.
Well, I think to start with, I think that funerals are for those left behind. The funeral is not for the person that's gone. Obviously, there are we have a committal and a commendation within our funeral services in order to commit the deceased, to God, if it's a Christian service, and otherwise, I'm sure there are different wordings that people use. But the funerals are for mainly those that are left behind. So whilst people might have wishes, actually, sometimes it's not practical to do the things that they want in a funeral plan. But some people stick to it to the letter because they feel they should, and other people kind of just, decide that they can make some changes. I think your God forbid statement or plea, I actually think that's like a prayer.
Okay.
So I think that, if we say, oh gosh, if something happened to me, God forbid, that would be my interpretation of saying, God forbid that anything would happen to me. It's a prayer.
Okay. I like the way that you've given me that back. Thank you. Let's well, I could talk about funerals and death and all that kind of stuff, but there might be some listeners going, oh, they better pick this back up again, otherwise I might just switch off.
Let's talk about new life.
Yes. So coming into this world, and it's not as straightforward, clearly, for everybody as others, but what a beautiful time that is, and you must see so much of it there at the church.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we have 3 toddler groups that happen here. So we get the new tiny babies right up until they start to go to school. We have a church school, so we get to see them all the way through. Of course, baptisms, weddings, hatchings, matchings and dispatchings, as my dad used to say in his Cockney tones. And he used to say that all my life. And then it's really bizarre because I now actually do conduct hatchins, mashins, and desmatchins. And anyway, so we do have baby baptisms. Yeah, are lovely. We have it's beautiful that people want to bring their children to be baptized. Yeah, I think baptism is amazing. I cried at my first adult baptism. There was a wonderful woman in one of our churches who had decided that she wanted to kind of start coming to church, and she felt that, she wanted to follow God. And yeah, I baptized her. And as I said, I baptized you in the name of the. That was so choked. It was so emotional. She, I think, probably more so than me, has tried to fill the void that she had with some damaging stuff. And yeah, it was just so powerful and beautiful, and showed me why baptism is a sacrament, why it is so, sacramental that someone should make that choice. It was really beautiful. Yeah, new life, childbirth, and all the connotations. Yeah, lovely. I've got 3 children. Got 3 boys. So I've had my fair share of babies. I don't want grandchildren anytime soon. So if they're watching this, tell them don't go down that road just yet. It'd be nice to just have a little break, to be able to fly off to Iceland and not have to think about any, grandchildren. Grandparenting and looking after children nowadays, what's that all about?
I don't know. It's just because I think the world has changed, has it not, from when we were children? The mum stayed at home generally, because we're talking about the 70s and 80s here. It wasn't the thing to do to go back to work. I mean, women did. It was just, but things weren't so expensive then. I mean, let's not go down the whole fact of trying to get on the house market now as an adult is just, it's ridiculous, isn't it? The wages to the cost of living, and it's just all gone out of kilter, which is why grandparents end up looking after the children, because childcare is so expensive. But actually, they've got to go back out to work because they've got to pay the bills to make ends meet, to put a roof over the head.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a real cycle, and we're seeing it from our end. Most of our toddler groups are filled with grandparents and the children they're looking after. And it's, again, another wonderful service that we offer, because, again, we want to be able to offer a place where people can get to know each other. We don't want, people to be lonely, sitting in the house on their own. Hence the reason we started Work from Wilfs. We wanted to, again, offer a space where people can come and make friends with people if they want to, have a conversation with a co-worker. But also, because it's a warm space in the winter, we foot the electric bill, and so they don't have to put the heating on in their whole house just for them. Have you sat at home with a blanket around your knees in the winter because you're low? So you got one now.
So sorry if you're just listening, not watching, because this is being recorded when it's lovely, but we've actually had the downpour and it's just oofing with rain. I came in and sat in my shorts, and then I've had to put a jumper on, and I just got a blanket on my lap. Such an old lady. But I love it.
There we are. So it's exactly for people like you who work at home, put a blanket on their knees, because actually it's really daft putting the heating on in your whole house for just you. And so I've sat there so many times freezing when I was prior to being in the parish, that I felt it was a real good need.
Yeah.
And I've just managed to get myself onto, not me personally, but the project, onto the social prescription list. And that was something I really wanted to get onto. So when somebody goes to a GP and they've maybe had a bereavement, or maybe their well-being is suffering, or maybe they're struggling, they might see a well-being nurse, and they can prescribe socially. So they can say to you, for example, would you like to do Tai Chi, or would you like to do walking or gardening? And so actually our projects are now going to be on that list. So somebody could come and work for Wilfs on a Wednesday. They might come and do our gardening. I started a community garden on a Tuesday afternoon for 2 hours. We work a patch of land into an allotment. They could help with that. And we started a repair cafe once a month. People bring all sorts of items, and volunteers fix them up, and they fix up the items, and we aim to fix hearts.
Oh,
how about that?
Yeah, but does it just not bringing the faith, but also the church into the modern world, as opposed to people thinking, oh, it's just a service, I've got to go on Sunday and sing some hymns. it's not about that at all. It's about a community, isn't it?
Yeah, it's actually a family is how we would describe it. It's just a broader sense of family. And so many people live away from their family that
Yeah.
actually you can find family in your local church, regardless of where you are. You know, a friend of mine's brother is really struggling, and, you know, my friend is not a Christian, but he said to his brother, go to a church, don't judge before you go and find some people who will just have a good intention for you. And I think that's something that people in a church will have the best intention for you. So it's a good community to be part of.
Mm. And I'm in Sussex, so could I come and work from Wilfs on a Wednesday?
Of course, if you come and work from Wills on a Wednesday, you'd be very welcome.
I think I might just do that actually, so that I still might bring the blanket because I do
Oh
get.
yeah, blankets are very welcome, and we put the heating on when it's chilly.
Oh, Rev Kerry, that is such a wonderful note that I'm going to actually come and draw this to a close. We've been chatting for half an hour. We've gone around everything. I think we've gone from cabin crew to cloth, and maybe that's the title there, right there. So, obviously, I will get all your details so we can put it in the show notes if people want to get in contact with yourself and the good work that you do. But if you could leave a lasting piece of advice, perhaps for someone that's maybe feeling out of kilter or out of sorts themselves, what would you leave as a piece of advice for them?
Wow, I would say, regardless of what's gone on for you, you know, just know that you are loved. You might not recognize who that is, but know that you are loved.
Oh, that is beautiful. Thank you for being part of this podcast. And I look forward
Thank you.
to
Thank you for having me.
How has this conversation had an impact on you? What have you learnt? What will you do differently? Do leave a review on Apple or Spotify on It Starts With You podcast. And also leave a comment down below. Do also then connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram, Facebook and LinkedIn. And why not even join the Facebook group It Starts With You and keep the learning ongoing. Thank you for listening.